Are we ready? A minute. Apologies, gang.
I'm gonna take a beating today. Sheesh. Sorry, guys. All right.
Okay.
I'm
We good?
I'm good.
Excellent. Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV, across the ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and topical, cultural, from the silly to the serious. And today we have a show for you. We are going to be talking about the Iraq War, Saddam Hussein, U.S. military intervention, and all topics related to this. Uh, we have my friend Omar and Beckett to duke it out over this. Was Saddam actually a good leader? Did the U.S. military do wrong in ousting him? We're going to find that out today. But yes, I want to give each of these lovely individuals a chance to introduce themselves and give a brief opening statement, and then we'll just get into it. If you have questions in the audience, super chat them, and we'll try to get to them. We'll see how it goes. Are the audios bad? Like, can you guys not hear us? Is that an issue? Okay, we'll find out. Anyway, with that, we're gonna go to Beckett first, and then we'll let Omar go second. So Beckett, go ahead. What you got for us?
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Okay, so leadership doesn't exist in a vacuum. Leadership is something that we can look at and quantify across history and across time. We don't make arguments based on a leader being good because of what happens before or after him. We take things as they are. We don't look at the French Revolution and say that the reign of terror of Robespierre was justified because France collapsed under Napoleon, or we don't say that the king would have been better while everyone was starving. Ultimately, these things are chains of events. Saddam Hussein oversaw a massive amount of oppression of his people. He oversaw multiple wars. He oversaw massacres. Ultimately, he oversaw massive economic disparity, despite having a large oil-rich nation, and some of that is economic mismanagement. In fact, an awful lot of it. And then the other part is essentially just corruption. The arguments of looking back on leaders in sort of Middle East or developing nations, often we point to people like Gaddafi and we look at the standard of living actually under Gaddafi and how that improves, and we can take those as singular things. I don't think that really applies to Saddam. And ultimately, through his mismanagement and lack of listening to the experts who were around him, particularly those who told him that going to war with Kuwait was a fucking insane idea and the West would absolutely intervene, who he then had executed, is a similar situation to the one we find Putin in, where he also didn't listen to anybody who disagreed with him and just listened to the yes men. We don't consider these strong leadership techniques. I'm sure we'll get into kind of the surrounding geopolitical situation in the Middle East and America, but I think that's so complicated. I think we'll just see where we go. So
we will. Well, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to your side of the argument. We'll see how it goes. Next up, Omar, please go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Omar from the Third Rail. I'm here tonight to debate was Saddam Hussein a good leader for Iraq. Now, when we compare the good leadership, we cannot compare him as a mirror image of Western society or Western leadership. Iraq is the Bermuda Triangle. I have a speech impairment, guys. The Bermuda Triangle of the Middle East. It is located at the spot of the geography where all the greatest divisions of war in Islam happen. Shiism and Sunni got its birth in Iraq when they killed the Khalifa Ali ibn Abi Talib and his son. I know you guys don't know that, but I'm telling you that Iraq is a powder keg. It has Shiite, Sunnis, Christian, Druze. It had all sort of kind of religious belief, and they're all vying for power. Saddam Hussein was a member of the Ba'athist Party that was founded by a Christian in 1948. The Ba'ath Party means resurrection in English. Is based on the idea of Arab nationalism and Arab pan-nationalism, that religion should not play a role in society, that religion should be a private matter and not be involved in government. Saddam Hussein's relationship started, I think, in 1979. Under Saddam, There was a distribution of wealth. People, free university. You don't have that in the United States. The best colleges in Iraq. Free healthcare to every single person. You don't pay a dime. We don't have that in the United States. Every person who gets married or got out of college is given a $5,000 down payment on a house, and the house is subsidized by the government of Iraq. Saddam Hussein used to get all the poor, used to give out scholarship to poor Arabs and all over the country, bring them to Iraq and study in Baghdad. He used to pay for the education and give them $100 a month as a stipend. Saddam Hussein's mistake was the United States. After the 1979 revolution in Iran and the American hostages was taken by the Iranian, America needed to get back at Iran. They didn't know how because they don't want to go into a direct war with Iran. What they did is they told Saddam in September of 1980, attack Iran, and because you need to get back some of the territory that, they have territory disputes. We'll support you with arms, money, and weapon. And the Arab Gulf said, we're behind you because we're scared of the revolution that's coming for Iran. Because they were scared that the Ayatollah Khomeini, the revolutions that was coming for Iran, was going to spread all over the Middle East. He attacks Iran, 15 million people. Iraq, only 15 million people. Iran had the best weapons because under the Shah. The Iranian-Iraqi war went on for 9 years, from 1980 to 1989. While the United States supported Saddam Hussein in Iraq, at the same time, we were selling weapons to Iran under the table. So in other words, we were killing both sides. So that was the situation. But Saddam was good for Iraq because they needed a strong, powerful leader. But if you compare his leadership to the Arab nation, to the Saudi Arabia, where women were not even allowed to drive, while in Iraq, alcohol was allowed, discos, bars, everything you want was there. It was like a Western society. And religion did not play a part in Iraqi's government, and he kept them under check. Did he make a lot of mistakes? Yes. But we cannot compare him to the leadership of Western governments. We have to compare him to the leadership of the neighborhood that he lived in and the way you have to act, because it's a tough, tough neighborhood. That is the Middle East. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we'll get into it. If this is open discussion, feel free to have a back and forth. If I stop you, it's because A, you're talking over each other and no one can hear you, or I have a clarifying question I'd like to ask to try to understand or help my audience understand. So with that, the floor is yours. Go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there were some interesting points there. So I want to we'll come to the economic stuff because I just outright disagree with you. I think it looks good on the surface. It just didn't play out that way, and that's largely because of multiple factors. But most people in Iraq didn't have access to basic services. So even if the ideal was everyone should have those things, Saddam wasn't able to bring that to fruition, and because of the issues in the economy, it was one of the major driving factors of going to war with Kuwait. But we'll come around to those things because I think that's going to be a deeper thing. Let's just talk about Iraq and Iran for a second here. So yes, we were selling weapons under the table. We do this quite a lot to people we dislike, to be honest with you. The idea that the arms business is a business. I think we're pretty accepting of that. But again, this is why Saddam is not a good leader. He was in a position where America was more than happy to let him do whatever he wants. We have CIA documents from the time, admitting that they knew Saddam was using chemical weapons, and they did nothing about it because they thought it was justified to keep Iran down, and actually has further decreased the conditions in Iran, which has led to further extremism. If Saddam had just ridden that wave, he would still be in power now. In fact, post 9/11, he'd probably be one of our most trusted allies, right? Because we need that power structure in the Middle East to keep things in check. It's one of the reasons we got so freaked out about Iraq and went to war with it and had to gather bad intelligence to justify that war.
Okay.
I also just very quickly, and then I'll let you go. I agree with you. We can't judge him by standards of the West, and this is one of the arguments with Israel. When we talk about Israel, people often apply Western standards, and that is an unfair standard to apply to the situation in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Saddam is good for the Middle East, and it doesn't mean he was good for Iraq.
Okay, sometimes people say he killed his own people. He gassed the Kurds. Yes, the incident did take place. You have to understand that Iran and Iraq were in a war of death. Iraq was losing the war. And in that area, the Kurds were helping the Iranian infiltrate Iraq. Now, when you have the whole state is about to fall, you're going to take a lot of crazy actions. For example, in the United States, we destroyed Waco. We killed 77 people in a fucking building. We in Philadelphia, an organization called Move, we threw a bomb and we burned the whole block because of 11 black people were in there, and we consider them extremists. Sometimes countries take extreme means to maintain the whole state. So when you are in a war and you are in a life and death situation, and Iraq was losing the war at the end, and a certain part of your country, like let's say for Texas, that the Texans were letting Mexicans get into the United States, of course you're going to take action. And the United States didn't care that it happened because in the Security Council, when they wanted to condemn it, the United States abstained. And later on, oh, we went to Iraq so because he's had his own people. My friend, I could explain to you why the Iraqi war took place. It's very simple. During the war, Kuwait was stealing Iraqi oil. They were drilling, it's called the horizontal drill. They were drilling horizontally to inside Iraq territory, and they were stealing the oil. Iraq claimed almost $3 billion worth was stolen. But Iraq couldn't do nothing because it was in a war. So let's say we'll take care of it when the war is finished. So when the war is finished, they came to Kuwait and told them, listen, we know what you did. Then the Kuwaiti refused to accommodate and give back the money to Iraq. Then they flooded the market with oil. A barrel of oil was $8. Iraq told Kuwait, why are you doing this? Why are you flooding the market with oil? You are hurting us. We just came out of the war. We owe $80 billion. We need the money. Why don't you just do your quota so we could keep? And I have this feeling the United States was putting Kuwait up to this because Kuwait is not a country that could defend itself against Iraq. So you have two situations. Kuwait was stealing the Iraqi oil. Look it up. You could Google it, people. You got Google here. I'm not telling no lies. Second of all, they were flooding the market with oil and saturating the market, and Iraq could not function. It was about to collapse as a country. Iraq asked the Arab Gulf country for $10 billion loan or to raise $10 billion was the debt. They said no. The United States ambassador, I think her name, let me see what her name, I don't have her name. What's that name of that idiot? Her name is April Glaspie. When she went to visit Saddam told her, what are we going to do with the issue with Kuwait? She said, as America, we have no position on Arab conflict. Saddam thought I was a green light to go into Kuwait. And don't forget, historically, Iraq claimed that Kuwait is part of its territory before the colonizers, British, cut it from Iraq. They called it the 19th government or the 19th state. You want to call
Always
it?
the British at the end.
Yeah, they cut it in 1961. They were going to go to war with Britain over to take back Kuwait. They could not take it back. And the majority of the problem in the Middle East, it goes to 1921 when they cut off the Middle East into maps in Paris. I forgot the name of the treaty, but he should know. He has a British accent. Sounds like he has a British accent there. So this is what the issue is. That's why he went into Kuwait, and they did it on purpose. Like what they did to Poland right now. They took him right into Ukraine. Go ahead, Mr. Beckett.
Okay, so we're talking about this. I mean, look, I'm not saying that we can't justify things. I'm not saying we can't explain things. But again, when we're looking at the outcomes of those things, this is kind of like the problem with the Falklands Isles. Yeah. The assumption was Britain wouldn't fucking do anything. We did. Yeah. We beat Argentina into the ground, and it caused a blowback effect that basically dismantled a regime. That doesn't make these leaders good, even if they can justify things, because you have to consider the effects on everything else.
Tony Blair apologized. You know that, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the point is that the question is, was he good? Well, clearly not, because he took actions that got Iraq invaded twice. You can talk about the justifications and everything else. You can talk about whether Kuwait deserved to be invaded. Surely, we're hearing that conversation in reference to the Ukraine constantly. Yeah. But again, we go, well, surely there are better ways to do that than situations that lead to the fall of your country. Yeah. As for talking about the Kurds and everything else, it wasn't just the Kurds that Saddam oppressed. There was the oppression of the Syriac Muslims, the Marsh Arabs in the Shia Muslims.
Yes.
Shia Muslims. There is the Marsh Arabs in South. Is that there was displacement and persecution for them? Assyrians. Sorry, you're gonna have to forgive me.
The pronunciations are very British.
Kill me.
Go on.
Yeah, which was an indigenous Christian majority group in Iraq. The Turkmen community, primarily concentrated in northern Iraq. The Yardis, which was a distinct faith, were also subject to discrimination and persecution. The accusations of ethnic cleansing towards Saddam were not just limited to the Kurds. So this idea again of religious tolerance.
That's a big word. His prime minister was Christian. I don't know how he's a president of Christian. The prime minister of Iraq, Tariq Aziz, is a Christian. I don't understand.
Sure, but at the same time, you can still see.
He said he was oppressing the Shia. The Shia are the majority in Iraq, and they fought for Iraq against a Shia country that is called Iran that has overwritten right now Sudan. So if he was oppressing the Shia, why would they fight?
There were several internal uprisings.
No, there was no. There was uprising after the 1991 war when the United States told them to uprise. They uprised and they got killed. The whole idea, what I'm telling you, is that Iraq was a power keg. They needed a leader like Saddam Hussein to glue it together. Right now, what do you see in Iraq? You have the mullahs, you have these schools, Shiism schools. You have no leadership. You have the government being held hostage inside the green zone, whatever it's called. You have nothing. You destroyed all Iraq. Iraq right now has become nothing but a vessel or a state that belongs to Iran. Iran is all over the place. Iranian militia, Iranian people. In certain areas, it's all the land is Persian now. They took over Iraq. Now, what did you do with these wars? You handed Iraq to Iran. Why? Why did you? Saddam Hussein never killed an American, never did any terrorism. He was at war with bin Laden. He was against terrorism. So the whole idea, you ask yourself, why would you blow up a country that never did anything to us?
Okay, but again, I'm not disputing those facts or points. Yeah. The question is, was Saddam good? And the outcome is what we have in Iraq now. Now, if you want to say, but if you want to say that all of this is to do with just America, Saddam couldn't have done anything, I think that's a fucking insane position to hold. Yeah. Clearly, the decisions Saddam Hussein made led to the current situation. And if it's a question of how are we treating people internally, Saddam was an oppressive, authoritarian leader.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for Beckett, you mentioned he was an oppressive, authoritarian leader. Can you give us some examples of this?
Sure. I mean, obviously, we've got the cases of mass political arrests. We've got the case where anybody who, I think, what's a good example? People in his cabinet. There was, for instance, one of the doctors in his cabinet really early on. A medical procedure went wrong, and that doctor was basically arrested. And there's a statement from him of, "I'm glad I got out with my life." And his body was found dismembered the next fucking day. Saddam again murdered people. Let's be clear about this. The idea of due process trials were not really a thing. We can argue about how it looked from the outside and what the intention was, but the reality.
So you're basing that he's an oppressive leader because he killed a doctor or he killed a couple of people. Is that it? Can I give you an example?
He killed hundreds of thousands of people. Let's be clear.
No, wait. Where did 100,000 people? Where? People
with the Kurds.
I'm from the region. He did not kill 100,000 people. The 100,000 people got killed in the wars, yes, but did he deliberately kill 100,000 people? That's a Hitler almost thing. Listen. We killed people with drones. Obama killed thousands of people with drones. 90% of them were people at weddings, at funerals. They were civilians. Why is it okay for us to kill people and say, oops, we made a mistake, but somebody else who does it, he must be a butcher, he's an oppressive piece of garbage, he's a murderer. We've been killing people for centuries. We have killed more people with drones, innocent women and children we have maimed in Afghanistan, in Yemen, all over the world.
Look, we can have. If you want to take
what's the scale of oppression?
Where have I said anything about defending the West? You came into this and said we cannot judge by the standards of the West. I'm not sat here defending the West. I'm not. No. Hold on. Let me finish.
No, hold on.
God, let me. No.
you
let me
finish.
finish. I'm
Okay,
trying,
okay,
I'm trying to
enough.
finish the answer. Like,
Enough.
No, just
Enough.
one word. I'm going to give it to you, then you go ahead. Then I'm just going to drink a cup of coffee. I want to ask you is he asked you what oppressive thing he did. He said he killed a doctor someplace. And then he covered 100,000. Do you have any proof? Don't throw these numbers. These are propaganda numbers. Don't do that.
oh fuck me. Like, okay,
I don't
fine,
fuck you.
fine. If you want to make the argument that like he never did anything, Saddam did nothing wrong.
something.
I mean,
He had to.
again, fucking hell, like when we're talking about good leadership though, if you want to talk about like America going over overseas and blowing people up with drones, like we could have that discussion and we could talk about whether America is good as an imperial power, but that's not the fucking question here. The question here is, was Saddam good for his own people? And the answer is no, because while you can point to America and say, well, they blow up people with drones, look what Obama did, and I may not even dispute some of those fucking points. We're not doing it to Americans. The British government is not like in a position where at any point I'm going to be assassinated by it for saying something they don't like. And that's the situation we're in. And if you want to make the argument that the Middle East is just like a powder keg where they have to rule in a way that if you say something inconvenient, it's understandable that a leader is going to have you executed in a fucking in a black site. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation of what the Middle East has been, or should be.
I never said that Iraq was a democratic state. I told you we have to judge it by the neighborhood that lives in. If you go over our allies that we were supposed to be defending, like Saudi Arabia, women were not allowed to drive. They were cutting men's and women's heads in the streets. They were butchering. They had no rights at all. They are living. The wealth is in the hand of families. The Saudi family control all the world. The Kuwaiti family controls all the world. The UAE family control all the world. In Iraq, there was no family. He was a one president, and he had an organization that kept him in power. And yes, there was some. He had to kill certain people because they're going to kill you because they're going to try to overthrow you. I'm not defending that part, but there was some distribution of wealth. You could read it. Just Google it.
I have a question for you, Omar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So you keep mentioning that there are times where a leader in the Middle East or in that region, that neighborhood, as you call it, must do certain things in order to maintain power. My question for you, where is the line where even if they quote unquote have to do these things, if they cross this line, they are no longer a good leader? Where is that line for you? Is it 10 dead, 1,000 dead, 100,000 dead? What are we talking about here?
Okay, we're here to defend. I'm here to say that if Saddam Hussein was a good leader of Iraq, right? Is that what the show is about, right?
It is, yes. So for Saddam, how many can he kill
I don't know how many
and still be a good leader?
There was a lot of wars. Hundreds of thousands got killed in the war. There was political assassination, yes, because I'm not defending that part. What I'm defending that if you saw Iraq's history after 1921, I think the British left when the British left, it was never stable. The communists take over, then they kill everybody. They used to hang people in street, those streetlight poles. The communists, then the Ba'athists take over, then everything. Saddam made the mistakes of being pressured to go to war. The first thing he made the mistake was to go into Iran, and it was a suicidal mission to do. But he just listened to the West. What I'm saying here, Wick, is there was a distribution of wealth. People went to school free. People had free university. Christian lived good lives. Don't say he didn't oppress no Christian. The Christian left after the war. Go look it up. Christians been living there. The prime ministers or the prime minister of Iraq, who is the mouthpiece who used to go over the world, is a Christian named Tariq Aziz. And there were a lot of Christian and Shia in the government because it was a secular government, because the whole idea of the Ba'athist party was they are pan-Arabists mixed with socialism. They saw religion as like Karl Marx did, but they don't
I've got a question for you.
Yeah,
I've got a question for you. Okay, so let's say we're judging by the standards of the region. Do you think that Kaiser Wilhelm was a good leader?
Who?
The leader of Germany in World War One. Do you think he was a good leader?
I don't have no idea with Germany. That's a European problem, you guys.
Okay, but the question is, do you think he's a good leader? Because this is
I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you that I don't know. But the only idea about World War One was there was a lot of alliance and all that stuff and everything. Everything burst in the open.
Okay, so let me explain to you why I'm
Hey,
asking
give me
you this.
somebody. Give me somebody modern. Give me from my time. I mean, don't give me
Well,
something.
no, because we need we're talking about extreme examples of what's happening in the Middle
Give
East,
me compared
and
to
so
somebody. No, compared to somebody in the Middle East.
okay, well, no, but this matters because there are like through lines to this. We can talk about this with like Putin and Ukraine if you like,
Yeah.
because there is a historic trend of leaders doing things that caused the downfalls of their country. Kaiser Wilhelm, like the decisions he made, led to World War One, and then in the long term led to Hitler. Now, we don't look at Hitler and go, well, Hitler was a terrible fucking outcome, so obviously the Kaiser was a good leader. We go, the Kaiser was a fucking terrible leader because the outcomes of his decisions led to fucking Hitler. Just because he didn't cause the Holocaust doesn't make him good. In the same way that when we look at like Putin, you can say like Putin's a strong leader. That's what Russia needs. I think most people will accept that you can't have a weak leader in Russia. We saw this under the USSR, but that doesn't make Putin good. That just makes Putin a strong man. Like Putin has overseen like major downfalls to the military, and like has listened to yes men, and actually has fallen into similar traps to the ones Saddam fell into.
According to UNICEF, I understand. I don't have I'm not informed of good with European history, especially going back that far. You know, maybe World War II. But I want to ask you something that we could. You said that Saddam killed his people, right? Imagine that
Sure.
almost 500,000 people died, children, from 1991 to 2001 because of U.S. sanctions. According to UNICEF, maybe almost 1 million and change of children died because of our sanction. So why do we excuse a murder of almost 500,000 children because of a policy toward a country? Then we say, oh, the guy he didn't like the doctor and they found him dead. You understand?
I don't see why that's relevant to this conversation.
It is relevant because it creates a situation in Iraq. That's what happened. That's why he went to war and all that stuff, because he was surrounded. He didn't have a chance.
Yes, but again, like you're comparing like the choices Americans made that affected the Middle East to the choices that Saddam made. But the choices that Saddam made affecting Iraq. And the question is, okay, so like let's talk about the sanctions. Well, were those decisions good for America? Yeah, probably. So, like, again, like, why is America's concern the Middle East? Like, America fucking up another country may not make that leader ethical, but the question of is that leader good for America might be absolutely.
Yeah.
So, again, the question is, was Saddam good for Iraq? And I don't see why, like, America sanctioning, like, against Iraq is an argument that somehow Saddam is good because America does bad things. I don't see how that lines up.
Why was America afraid of Saddam? Why did we go to war? Our enemy was Iran. Iran took our hostages. Saddam was our ally. Saddam never attacked anything, never killed, never committed any terrorist attack in the United States. He was a danger to no one. And he was an ex-ally. As a matter of fact, Rumsfeld gave him a gun, AK-47 made out of gold. He was their boy in the Middle East. Why were they afraid that they had to blow up a whole country? What was the danger? He was a good leader of his country. He didn't give his oil away. There was no money. He wasn't giving them a cut. That's all it is.
I think there were so there were a couple of there were a couple of reasons that we went to Iraq. I mean, we justified it through like you can talk about the intelligence stuff and whether that's bad intelligence or whether that's intentionally misleading intelligence. I think the Chilcot report puts it in like pretty much both camps, depending on like who and what we're talking about. And like, I'm not going to dispute a lot of that. I wrote about it at university. Like when we're talking about like going to Iraq, a lot of this is to do with post 9/11 stabilization worries and concerns, particularly like towards Israel. And generally, like the growth of.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't see. Hold on, let me finish.
The whole Iraq.
Hold on. Okay. You've got to let me finish. Otherwise, it's just pointless.
I'm sorry. Take your time.
Because again, like. So you've got like the situation of like how things are going to affect Israel, but also general Islamic growth in the region. And the idea was, and this was an incorrect idea, I'm not defending it, that if we went into Iraq and basically rebuilt the regime like to one that we could completely trust, because again, Saddam Hussein went to war with Kuwait in the 1990s, so we didn't trust him to maintain that stabilizing influence.
We destroyed his army. There was no reason to go. He was weak.
Yes, and if he hadn't invaded Kuwait, he would have been fine. This is the problem.
After the Kuwaiti War, we destroyed the whole army in a highway of death. The whole idea was to get the Iraqi army out. He was weak. We had sanctions. We had no-fly zones. Iraq was a weak state. He was in. A matter of fact, he hated Islamic fundamentalism. He hated the people we hate, the people we made in Afghanistan, the Al Qaeda we created, the American created, Bin Laden that we created. He hated him, and he was in a state of war with these people. He was not a man who loved Islamic fundamentalism. He was not even religious. He used to drink to himself to death all night. So it has nothing to do with that. You understand?
But again, I'm not disputing some of these points.
Everything. Then what is the dispute? The man was under attack. Iraq. I ask you a question. If Iran was our enemy, if Iran was the most dangerous, the whole idea we went to war. You know, the war in Iraq, the plan was written before George W. Bush was. There's an article in the Jewish newspaper called Hertz, The White Man's Burden. 25.
I'm not going down fucking conspiracy theories with you. I'm not. I don't want to go down globalist.
It's not conspiracy.
Because these conversations, whenever we talk about like,
I'm talking about the neocons, Wolfitz and Pearl and Bill Crystal. This is not conspiracy. I'm not into conspiracy. Hart's newspaper is like the New York Times of Israel. It's a Jewish newspaper that told them that was 25 neocons that started the war in Iraq that wanted the war. 23 of them were Jewish Zionist hawks.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going down.
I know we got to protect the class. You know, we can't touch.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. But that kid, I want to hear your response.
I don't know. You're cutting off with me. Go ahead.
Sure. So I have two questions actually for you, Omar. So the first one would be, was, in your opinion, Saddam justified in declaring war on Kuwait in the 90s?
Was it justified? No, but was
he correct?
It was necessary. Because if he didn't
elaborate on that,
I'm going to tell you why. Because Kuwait was probably told by the United States. You see, they have a quota. You know, when they sell oil in this country, they have to keep a price. It has to be like, it was $20 at that time to stay afloat. These countries, because that's the only income they have. So imagine you just came out of a war. You're $80 billion in debt, which is a lot of money to them at that time. And you're telling Kuwait, why are you saturating the oil market with oil? Why don't you just sell the quota you're supposed to sell? The barrel of oil is only $8. And if you continue down this lane, we're going to go bankrupt and it's going to destroy our economy. Just sell what you're supposed to sell. They said no. They were stealing his oil. Could you reimburse us for the oil you were stealing during the war? And we knew you were stealing it from the border, but we didn't say nothing. So it was it was a life and death for Iraq. If they continue, they will collapse economically. And Kuwait was put up to this, I think, by the United States. They needed to bait Saddam probably. I don't know why. Because Saddam never did anything wrong to the United States. He doesn't have any weapons. He doesn't even have nuclear reactors. Iran has nuclear reactors.
So, but regardless of like, I understand that there is reasons for going into these places, right? There's reasons that leaders.
Yeah, it's national security. Yeah.
Just let me finish the question.
Go ahead.
Let me finish prefacing. So Putin justified or attempted to justify his war in Ukraine by citing NATO expansion. He cited Nazis in Ukraine. He cited all these conditions, some of which just weren't true, but some were. And he said, because of this, I am justified, and I think it's necessary for me to go in to Ukraine. We know that's not true. No. Now, when it comes to Saddam and Kuwait, I know that Saddam said all these things, that Saddam gave these justifications, but I'm asking you, in your opinion, was he justified? Does that make sense?
Yes, he was justified. Because okay. I'll tell you why, the difference between Ukraine, Putin is an aggressor in Putin. He didn't have to go into Ukraine. He was not drowning economically. Ukraine was not fighting him economically or military. What he did, it was a bait. They just took him in there to destroy him. It's a cheat. They put a cheat out for him. He went in there, he bit, and now they're going to destroy Russia. There's a difference there. Iraq claims that Kuwait is his land. Only the British cut it off and made it an individual state. Okay, let's not go back to ancient history. Was he justified? I think yes, at the end, because if he didn't do it, he will economically collapse. That's all it is.
Okay. I'll get to the second question later. I'm going to give it to
Beckett. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I think let's turn to the economics then. Like that's bore everyone to fucking death. Listen, like you can make arguments for Saddam being a good leader, but again, I don't really get where this comes from in comparison to like people like Gaddafi, where I've heard similar arguments. The
Gaddafi was crazy.
living conditions under Saddam weren't good for the average person. Like the idea that there was economic
Gaddafi,
mismanagement and corruption, like, is one of the things that led to the economic conditions where he had to go into Kuwait. Like, and then when we're talking about, like, just generally speaking, I think you seem to accept the fact that America was happy with Saddam to be in power when we're talking about the 1980s,
Yes.
when he's a force against Iran, right?
He's a toy, yeah.
Yeah, and he's clearly getting US support. I mean, there's people who claim that he was literally just a CIA asset for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, if we're in that position, if you're a leader who's got that much protection, and then you make decisions that collapse that protection, doesn't that make you a bad leader?
Yeah, but okay, the war that
doesn't that make you bad for your country?
It is okay. You make bad decision as a leadership, but it doesn't give the reason for another country to blow you up and blow up your whole country and hand.
But I'm not talking about.
No, hold on, and hand you over to your enemy to hang you. This is is unbelievable. What happened? It is unforgivable.
It's not unbelievable, though. Okay, it's not unbelievable. That's the point. It is a historic fact that these things happen all the fucking time. If Saddam was competent, he would have known that was going to happen.
Okay.
These are not complicated geopolitical things to work out. They're simple.
I can understand, but you can't compare him to Gaddafi. Gaddafi was a terrorist. He blew up planes. He used to support terrorism all over the world. He was a narcissistic piece of shit. He had a lot of issues. Yeah,
he openly engaged in assassination. I'm not disagreeing.
You gotta give him credit that every Libyan should get, I think, $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month free.
Yeah, but that's the question, isn't it? It's what those people look like internally. Like again, you can point to other failures.
But Libya was all sand. He didn't develop anything. Gaddafi. He was fucking nuts. He had this. He was crazy. But Saddam Hussein was not a crazy individual. Saddam Hussein, yes, he made a lot of mistakes. You have to understand the pressure of the United States is big in the Middle East. They come to listen. You got to go and attack Iran. That's it. But we have this thing where we always turn against our allies, the United States. That's why the United States is not a good friend.
Hold on. Hold the fucking phone. I don't think that like stopping Saddam Hussein invading a sovereign nation is us turning against our allies. I think that's why. If you want to make the position that, like, listen, we can't blame Saddam for the Iranian war because it's just all America. And firstly, with that point, again, to good leadership, if Saddam was basically just a fucking puppet leader for the US until he decided not to be, again, I don't think that makes him a good leader. I think that makes him a fucking puppet.
Okay, the idea, okay, let's say he was wrong to invade Kuwait. I'll give you that. But we already went to Kuwait. We pushed him out. We destroyed maybe 80% of his army. We have him under economic sanctions, no fly zones. So it was solved. We'll solve the rest.
Okay, but let's be clear about something. Okay. Like, the reason why we turned around to Saddam post 9/11 and said, actually, fuck, we need to get rid of this person, is because looking at the Middle East, not only was there no like big stabilizing factor as there had been in the 1980s, which Saddam served that fucking purpose for the United States.
But even
It was the argument that because post 9/11, we saw an increase in terrorism with things like Al Qaeda. We saw an increase in terrorism in places like Palestine, who were openly supportive of Saddam. In fact, they supported Palestine. Palestine's no
terrorism in Palestine.
Listen, if you want to use different. If you want to use different,
freedom fighters fighting for their country.
I want to be real fucking I want to be real clear about this. When I use the term terrorist, I'll use it about, like, I have a master's degree in counterterrorism. When I use the term terrorist, I'm using it in the term for like multiple groups. I use it for Antifa. I use it for like things like the IRA. I'll use it for I'll use it for the like
the IDF. The Israeli army. Can you use it against them?
No, because they're a military force. Because again, these terms have fucking meaning. Like, again, you can say that doesn't matter. That doesn't make them terrorists. That doesn't make it ethical. It doesn't defend those things.
State-sponsored terrorism. Can we call it that?
No, because state-sponsored terrorism is a particular thing. So, okay, just to be clear on definitions, state-sponsored terrorism. No.
It's okay to kill children and women and occupy people of 7 million, take 80% of their water, their resources, but since you are an organized army, you're not a terrorist. But if you fight back, you're a terrorist. Listen, every Palestinian has the fucking right to fight back. If you are occupied, it is not only is it a human right, it's a natural right. It's a God-given right.
Okay, but you're not. But you're not.
And clear your enemy out of your country.
Oh my God. But it
Israel is an apartheid state. Hold on. Israel is an apartheid state. Israel is an ethno state. Israel occupies 7 million Palestinians and are building ghettos, building roads for Jews only, water for Jews only, inside an occupied territory while we watch and give them $4 billion a year, and you refuse to call them a terrorist?
I don't call Nazi Germany terrorists either, because that's not what terrorists mean. Again, words have fucking meanings.
Well, I'm going to give you the definition today. Israel is a terrorist state. I'm going to tell you right now. Israel is an occupied state. It's an apartheid state. It is a murder state. They killed.
For fuck's sake.
How do you respond to the allegations, Beckett, that you will refuse to call out terrorisms like Nazis and Israelis, apparently?
Okay, sure. Do you know what? Fine. If you want to use the term terrorist in such a broad term, every country is terroristic. Oh, no, but that is a fucking meaningless word. It's meaningless.
So
and very quickly,
are you saying the Nazis are not terrorists?
No, of course they're not. They're fucking genocidal monsters. But terrorism has meaning.
They terrorize the whole ethnic. They terrorize the world. They terrorize the Jews. They terrorize the Poland. They terrorize every people. That's terrorism means is when you're afraid or when you put fear in people. What is worse than fear in people and put them in fucking gas ovens? Is there anything worse than that?
Okay, but this is why this word has become. This is when this word has become fucking meaningless. Again, we're down a fucking rabbit hole. Again, when we're talking about,
I don't want you to get scholarship.
Okay.
Scholar on
no.
Israel is a terrorist state. I don't care what anybody
says.
Okay,
cool. So Saddam Hussein.
Thank you. Huh?
So is Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein is a terrorist.
How?
You just said he caused terror in people, he caused fear in people, he started wars, he committed atrocities. Saddam Hussein, by your own definition, is a fucking terrorist. Are you kidding me? Your definition is so fucking broad, it makes no sense at all, because you're just oh my God, Israel have to be called terrorists, otherwise we're giving in to the globalists. What the fuck is this? What are you on? Just be listen, they're a military, they do bad things, that's fine. Stop being emotive with your language to try and win a point. It's bizarre.
Are you Israeli? Are you Jewish, you?
No.
Okay, so I just want to know.
What does that have to do with fucking anything?
You defended genocidal state. I say maybe, you have some personal connection. I just wanted to know that. That's all, because I'm
defending a fucking word, which you're randomly misusing to try and make an emotional point.
I told you they killed 600,000 Iraqi children. He said, "Well, he killed a doctor, and they found the doctor's body." Okay, that maybe it was a serial killer.
Let's be clear. No. I used the doctor as an example of Saddam's brutalism. But he did it to multiple other people. He had his half brother executed. He had the Prime Minister on Foreign Affairs of Iraq sentenced to death in 2010. He had who else? Another one of his half brothers was also executed. His cousin was executed. His personal secretary and advisor was arrested in 2003 and sentenced to death in 2009. A former vice chairman of Revolutionary Command Council executed in 2007. A senior advisor was arrested in 2003 and executed in 2007. There is a list of this. When we're talking about let's go back actually, because you asked about this earlier. You were what was it? The deaths for the Kurds, and you were oh well, that was the war in the 80s. Well, then when we look at the 1993 Human Rights Watch put the numbers for the Anfal campaign based on documents captured from Kurdish rebels during the 1991 uprisings, and there was between 50,000 and 100,000 deaths, and these were fucking civilians. So this claim for you, where you're Israel's so evil, this is his own fucking people. What is wrong with you?
What I'm saying here is, if Saddam Hussein attacked another country, they had weapons, they had tanks, they had armies, they had everything. But when you have a country that was built out of nothing, it's just like you got mugged in Germany, you took a beating there, the Germans and the Europeans gave you land they don't own, to a people they don't deserve. And all of a sudden, you are occupying 78 of the country. Nobody's saying nothing. This is yours already. And you're still going after the 22%. You don't want to. Hold on.
Are we moving on to Israel now? Is
No,
that
no,
what
no,
we're
We
doing?
apparently are. Okay, go on.
The Palestinians. No, it is a Palestinian issue because the reason that Saddam Hussein was taken down because he was pro-Palestinian and he used to give funds and money to people with family whose children died there. And the only reason Saddam Hussein and Iraq was destroyed is for Israel's national security. You could read. I don't deal with conspiracies, my friend. I'm talking about facts. I mean, newspapers. These are legit newspapers, not some fucking Infowar newspaper. I'm telling you. Did you read the article I gave you, Hearts, Mr. Wick? There.
I was able to peruse it. I didn't get into the confirming its sources. I didn't read it.
Could you put the sound effect of the general clock? What he said.
Yes, but y'all won't be able to hear it. My audience will.
Why we can't hear it?
Because for whatever reason, won't.
Oh.
I don't know why, but that is what.
Well, I want let the audience hear it. Then they deserve to hear it. It's just a 2-minute thing.
Okay, audience, can you hear it?
Let me go to your. Oh, almost heard it. What they said, they hear it?
Can you guys hear it?
Sure.
No, there's nothing there.
I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. There's nothing there. All right, then.
You guys can hear it? It says it's coming. Oh, they hear it. They hear it.
Okay. Okay. You should send something to Beckett, but it's okay. Beckett, you should look it up. It's called Wesley Clark talks about the war in Iraq. He didn't even know. He said, "Why are we going there?" They said, "We don't know." Are we still going there? No, I don't know. This is Wesley Clark. He was the head of a.
I think I'm. You know what? I think I'm showing the other one you sent me.
You sent the girl, right? Even
Yeah,
the girl, you see the girl that started the war. Oh, they're taking babies out of incubators. They're taking them from hospitals. They're taking hospital births. And she turned out to be the daughter of the ambassador of Kuwait living in the United States. And we started a war in 1990 because she went in front of Congress and our newspapers were accomplices that. Imagine Beckett. Imagine the United States looking for weapons of mass destruction in his house, in his White Castle. How much weapons could you hide in your White Castle? I mean, how many rockets? And the British, Tony Blair, we have the British dossier. I'm talking British right now. That Saddam is able to attack Britain in 45 minutes. The fucking guy had nothing. He had nothing, but
look again. I'm not disputing that.
The guy was scared to admit it because he's in a bad neighborhood. He has to say, "Oh, I think I got it." And I think I got it someplace. I don't know. I don't got it, but he can't say I don't have it because you live in a bad neighborhood. The whole idea is even Israel in 1981, they attacked when Iraq tried to build a nuclear, what do you call it? The nuclear thing, reactor, or whatever it's
refinery.
Called. You know, they bombed it right away. But in Iran, they have like 607. So who's the enemy here? Iran.
Okay,
Iran has. Hold on. Iran,
I want to give finish your point, Omar, but then we got to give Beckett some room here.
Okay, let me
finish your point, and then we'll give Beckett some
What
room.
I'm saying is that Iran is the arch enemy in the Middle East. They have militia in Yemen. They have militia in Lebanon. They have militia in Syria. They have militia in Iraq. They are using these militia to create havoc in the Middle East. You know why? So they could negotiate and take the sanction off it. They say, okay, you're going to put us under sanction. We're going to ruin the whole neighborhood. Once you.
But my problem.
But
what
we do, we go attack Iraq. Boom.
No, but my problem here is that you are using the general stuff around what's been happening in the Middle East and a lot of the American foreign policy and stuff that happened post 9/11 to talk about how Saddam Hussein was actually a really good old guy. And the truth is that this is the problem when people do this with people like Stalin, or any really contentious figure that people want to sort of whitewash bits of their fucking history. if you came to me and said, I want to have a debate on whether the Iraq war was justified, like, I don't know, that's a very different conversation to the one that I was that I was supposed. No, hold on, let me finish. Because if you want to have that kind of conversation, and then you're still like, well, Saddam Hussein was a fucking bastard to his own people, who gassed his own people and used chemical weapons.
He was a good guy.
I don't get how you're seeing this though, because okay, so
I witnessed it.
Okay,
I wasn't back. I know
who
people
benefited.
I know people who in Baghdad, they went to school free from other country. The Iraqis live freely. Women were able to dress as they want, shorts, whatever they like. It was a Western style society. Saturday night, the disco clubs were dancing. People were drinking. Everybody was going their way. You want to go to the mosque?
Well, let me ask you on that, Omar. Let me ask you on that. Do you see a difference between the Iraq of the 70s and the the Iraq war, Iraq/Iran war, and then afterwards? I would posit that these
the 70s.
So let me make sure I get it right. Pre-79 coup, right? The pre-79 coup, and after the coup, going into the Iran war, right? Saddam Hussein, like or Iraq was different places between these two. Like it was different pre-79.
Yeah.
It was much more close to what you were saying, and then afterwards, with the sanctions, with the war, with all these things. Yeah. You understand how, like, when we're talking about this, we can't just pretend that it was all the 70s all the time. Like, we have to deal with the last.
It was in the 80s. In the 80s, everything was good. The only time that he tried to outlaw alcohol in 1994, and the whole government said, "What are you, crazy? You want to turn the people against us?" He turned a little religious after the beating he took in 1990. But Iraq was always a free society socially. As long as you don't get involved.
How is it a free society when you've got massive
like me right now? I'm popping a lot of shit. I got a microphone in my house. Maybe they have a problem with that in Iraq. Here they don't. But if I go to the January 6th and start breaking windows, that's a problem, right? So this is what it is. What I'm trying to say, that Iraq, compared to his neighbors, people were moving freely. People had their own life socially. Women were more professor. Hold on. I just read an article, I think in the New York Times, they talk about the past. There were more women professor in Iraqi university than there were men in 1990. Imagine that. Women were not even allowed to show their faces in Arabia at the same time. You understand what I'm saying? The whole idea is that, yes, Saddam Hussein made a lot of poor choices. Iraq was involved in a war that should never have been in, 2 wars. The worst war was the Iraqi war. 9 years, they wasted a lot of treasure. But still, during that time, there was a distribution of wealth, free education, free healthcare. They gave money to the poor. He subsidized all major food items. He built roads, bridges. Iraq was not. People think Iraq was a backward country. No, it's not. Iraq was beautiful.
Listen. Iraq. This is one of the things that was said about the first Gulf War. We're going to be there for fucking years. There's Iraq has a massive military. Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think Egypt's a good country?
Right now, Egypt as a people, they're good, but the government is a piece of shit.
Why is the government
I'm going to tell you why.
Sure.
Not because it's a dictator. They're all dictators in the Middle East, all assholes.
Sure.
But the Arab Spring came and overthrew all the overthrew them peacefully, the students. Overthrew all the dictators and all those people there for years, and the United States just watched, didn't do nothing. And the deep state came and put everybody in jail, killed whoever killed, and reversed all the thing they had did in the Arab Spring. They had the Islamic government. I know Morsi, he died already, but the whole idea, I wanted democracy in the Middle East. The United States drove us crazy fucking years. We need democracy. We are fighting for democracy. And when democracy came, the United States played dumb. And everybody came back to power. Everybody went to jail. The students went to jail, and all that waste and energy. The Arab Spring came. Have you heard of the Spring of Nations in 1848 when Europe went to war for? I think it's called the Spring of Nations, right? It's called something like that, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when it took 40 years to get their rights, we had that opportunity, but I don't like the government because they overthrew the elected government. I love democracy, and I think democracy will play good. But the United States and Western society, they don't want democracy. They need one guy to control him, do what we want. But if you had a democracy, you cannot bully that country because he's dependent on the votes of the people who voted in. It's very easy.
Okay. I understand. We need to give a little bit more time to Beckett, but $5 from Skilltree Gaming to say, to the guy living in the Middle East, what do Westerners need to know about the oil territory conflicts following the dissolving of the Ottoman Empire? Probably a little out of the scope of the discussion, but maybe not.
Say that again. Say it again. The dispute.
Sure. What do Westerners need to know about the oil territory conflicts following the dissolving of the Ottoman Empire?
You see, people don't know that the evil in the world is. I'm sorry, Britain is the most evil country in history. All the problems in the Middle East you could trace them back to the British Empire and the colonial people. They drew the maps in Paris of countries that they didn't know how they are. They didn't know what the borders were. They cut countries, tribes in half. You got to understand, Arabia is a tribal country, and they created these false borders that created. Libya has an issue with Shad. Sudan has an issue with Egypt over land. Yemen has an issue with Saudi Arabia over land. Every country had a problem, a border issue with the other country, and it was done on purpose to keep these people infighting so the British could conquer, and divide and rule. That's all it is. The guy is British. You should know his history. Your country was
evil. Like I actually, you know what? I don't disagree with you.
Why don't you apologize to me for your evil that you did to the
Why don't you, Beckett? Okay, we gotta give some space to. Speaking of Beckett, the evil British representative.
That would be like me being like, "Oh well, you're defending Islam. Can you apologize for 9/11?" Like, I obviously, firstly, hold on,
because 9/11 is a bunch of idiots. This is a country with a government and a kingdom.
Okay, listen. I don't feel. Firstly, hold on.
Okay, one word. I will accept the apology for the world, for the third world countries, the India that you guys fucked, robbed, and stole from, and for centuries. Give them gold and diamonds, man.
Firstly, my family lineage is Irish, not fucking English. It's Scots, Irish, and Jewish. And let's be fucking clear about
I love
this.
The Irish.
I don't disagree with you that like Britain turned around and like divided countries up in weird fucking lines.
Yeah.
Again, I've talked about this. We did it to fucking Africa, and that's caused a whole heap of trouble there as well. Like, I'm not disagreeing with you. Those things are true. And again, you can see the lingering effects of colonial powers on the world stage for a long fucking period of time. That's those things are all true. Yeah. But again, like when we're talking about like the outcomes of countries, because this is one of the weird sort of like fucking left talking points which you hear in a lot of countries of, well, actually it's a white people's problem.
Are you Catholic or Protestant?
Irish Catholic.
Oh, so you're the best. Catholic. Oh, so you're an ally. You're an ally. Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Let's let Beckett get to his point.
Let's get to some fucking. Let's get back into this because again,
just one word. You know, the best supporters of Palestine are the Irish Republic. You know that the Irish people are the best. They are the biggest people who support the freedom and liberation of Palestine. You know why? Because the Palestinians, trained the IRA in Arabian countries and send them back to fight the British. Just go ahead.
Okay, so that aside, we're now getting into fucking Ireland now.
You didn't apologize.
Like,
okay.
what for apologize?
It was an opportunity, right, Wick, to apologize for all the misdeeds.
We gotta let Beckett have.
Beckett, go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Listen, I'm not asking anyone to apologize for anything their country has done that is beyond their fucking control. I think that standard is fucking ridiculous.
I will if I did something.
Well, why? Okay, actually, do you know what? Fuck it. Why? Why is it your responsibility? Like, again, this feels like the whole debate. It's like, oh, I have to defend Saddam Hussein.
Okay.
Like, I have to defend the Middle East. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Like, for you, why does it matter what the wider culture does?
Is it what?
Why does it matter for you what a country you're from does? Like, again, I was born in South Africa. I'm not sat here apologizing for apartheid.
Oh my gosh, that's even worse. Will you remember the apartheid state?
Did you run apartheid state in
Oh
South
my
Yeah,
Africa.
God.
secretly,
What-
I'm in my
What did
60s.
you do to me? This
Fuck
guy's
me.
even worse. He's worse than the British. Did you oppress those black people and told them that that's not their country, that's not their country? It's even worse.
Okay, let's.
I want you
I
to be
mean-
honest with me. Were your family supporters of the apartheid state pre-19 before the
No.
what's his name, Mandela?
No, we weren't there. Like, I was born there, but my family weren't
You
there.
enjoyed the
during that period.
privileges of being white there, man. You have to.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank
Sure.
you. Wick, I got him. The guy's worse.
Why? Like, what?
Okay,
Okay, no. Apparently, the guy defending Saddam Hussein thinks I'm the worst on it. Okay.
You have to apologize. You have to apologize twice for the apartheid state and for the British.
Will
You
you
got two apologies.
will you apologize as a man for all the oppression women have faced?
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean oppression? What's oppression to you, the woman? What's oppression?
Just all of it, just generally, all through history.
We don't oppress women in our culture.
Okay, well, no, you're a man. I'm talking about all men. Will you apologize for all men for any oppression that has occurred? In fact, anyway, will you apologize for the fucking Stone Age? I hate these conversations. Listen, if you
Women apologize. Our
Jesus
women are
Christ.
not oppressed. Muslim women are not oppressed. They never are. Muslim women are princes and queens.
Wait,
Women-
Omar,
that
I
wasn't-
have to ask. Are you arguing that in Arab states such as Saudi Arabia, such as Iran, such as Syria, Lebanon, etc., are you arguing that women don't face oppression in those countries?
There's no oppression. Maybe
There's no oppression.
I could tell
Okay.
you where. I could tell you Iran. Yes, Iran. They have the issue where they force women to do what they want.
I'm telling you right now
Yeah.
that I hard disagree, but that's beyond the scope. I think I hard disagree that
I
women
don't
face
know what
oppression.
oppressive. If you guys, if women are made to wear a scarf, if that's oppressive. I mean, if you define it, that's up to you to define. what
Yes, if
oppressive
someone is forcing women to
if
wear
somebody is forced
certain
to
types
do
of
something,
clothing
yes.
I
and
told
men
you, Iran
not
does.
to,
But yeah, the other countries,
Saudi Arabia does.
Saudi Arabia. Well, they're already open now. They have rights and everything. The whole idea is not oppressive. Oppression is when you put women, you beat up women, you put them in jail. Like you guys used to burn them as witches. That's oppression.
Hold on.
That's what you guys did.
Female journalists are arrested in Islamic states. Women
What are you
who
talking
speak
about?
out and don't.
Jamal Khashoggi was killed and cut to pieces. We can't find his body. You talking about women? We can't even protect our men. And the guy, we can't even cut him to pieces and put acid. We can't find his body. I'm not here to defend the oppressive behavior of country, but me as a man in Islamic society, I don't see our women as oppressed. This is the way they live. We live our society like that. As a matter of fact, if you look out here, you guys have an issue here with the male. You have a male identity crisis in the United States and Western society. You're not making any more babies because you have become.
You're an Andrew Tate fan, right?
I like him because he's talking right. But I think that
okay, so you like Andrew Tate, who's talking right, who openly admits to running webcam girls, manipulating them, and is currently up on fucking trafficking charges.
Hold on, Brecken, let's be honest with each other. I think that men should be able to be men in Western society. I think men in Western society have been emasculated by corporate America, by taking the women out of the home in the 70s and give out the women liberation movement. They put them to work. A man in the 60s in the United States was able to buy a house, send his children to school, come home, his wife is making food, everybody's happy, and one income. Now you have the father and the mother working, they can't even pay their rent, and they have $500 in the bank. Nobody's raising the kids. You know who's raising the kids? YouTube and Google and TikTok. We have an issue. We have a crisis in Western society that men have become emasculated. They're almost women-like, I'm sorry. You have these... We do have it. You have women, the transition stuff, you know what's going on. I never saw that in the 1990s. Everybody's like, I'm a man. Well, I was born a woman. I feel it. And the other guy, I was born. What's going on? Western society has defeated its men. We need strong men. You need a father figure to
need a Saddam Hussein figure to come in and take over, you think?
No, I'm not talking about leadership. I'm talking about that you need an Omar as a man.
Okay. Do you know what? Fuck it. You're right. Women are the problem. And actually, the reason Iraq fell is because Saddam Hussein gave women the vote. He caused the fall of Iraq
There was no
by
vote.
empowering, furthering women.
There was no vote.
And by further
Stop
empowerment.
misleading the
No,
audiences.
of course there wasn't. But actually, he did give women the right to vote. They just, it's just voting in Iraq was fucking meaningless.
I know we got off the subject, but what I'm saying is that I'm not trying to be an asshole. I think there's an issue here in the United States. We have an issue with the young men here. When you have 35-year-old living in their woman's basement, their mother's basement, and able to get jobs, don't want to go get jobs, living off their father's. That's a problem. 15-year-old.
Okay, but do you think? Okay, so sure, if we want to say those things are a problem, and firstly, again, I don't know how good your history is. Mine is quite good on stuff like this. The idea that women never fucking worked in European culture, that this is a new invention, is fucking nonsense. It's just not true. Like women weren't homemakers in the way that like the weird people think.
Before 1881, your women could not even own land. Come on, man, who are you lying to? Come on, get
no. Actually, fuck off with that shit. When we go back to like the 15, 16, 1700s in like the United Kingdom, for example, women were landowners because it was based largely around aristocracy and family, and they even had the vote because voting was based on land ownership. It's referenced at around like 2%.
Let's go back to Iraq. I don't know about this.
Like, yeah, okay, let's go back to Iraq. Sure. Now it's getting inconvenient.
What I'm
like,
saying,
listen, no. I want to talk about.
I agree with you.
Let's talk about
I agree with
rights
you. Listen, is
fucking Newtown movement.
Your phone is
like, let's talk.
Let's. I agree with you. If that happens, okay. What I'm saying here in Western society has an issue with this men. You need to make men. You gotta come on. They started. They started with this. The inner child. The inner child. I said, what the fuck is an inner child? There's a child in me. Where is it? The inner child. Get out of here.
Sure, wait. Sorry about the ban.
No, Beckett. Okay. I think we've moved off of the Saddam topic, unfortunately. No, but this is interesting. This is good because I'm curious what Becca would say. So would you agree with Omar's take here that the Western men are being emasculated right now? And why or why not? I'm curious.
I think people generally have a crisis of purpose and identity. Sure. I don't know if I'd call that emasculation. I think certainly there are groups like trying to push for that. You can see that in sort of like feminist movements. So we need to make like toxic masculinity gone and things. But like ultimately, I think there are also core reasons with our labor markets. People seem to have less drive and purpose. I actually think like the loss of religion is like a pretty major factor in all of this. We're like highly materialistic. But again, like I don't think Andrew Tate is the answer to that. I don't think the red pill movement.
I don't agree with everything with. Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with all the other shit he does. What I'm saying is that there's a survey that Western men are not even having sex no more. They can't get laid. Some of them because it's not you got the incel movement here. You got everything because the problem is they have cheapened the women to a point they made her a part of the as a tangible object instead of I don't know, man. I think I see women differently. I don't want to go crazy. What I'm saying is that
you think? Okay, let me ask you a question.
Go crazy. I'm curious.
It's not a fucking. It's not a trap. And I just want to ask. I want to ask this question. You can tie it in. Do you think arranged marriages are a good thing?
Yes. That's how I got married.
Just so I know where we are, basically.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you what. If you had arranged marriages here in the United States, you would not have these incel movements going on. I'm gonna give you a subject. There was an Iraqi young man who killed 17 Canadians. Remember, he ran them off with a van. I don't know if you remember his name. It's on YouTube when they did the integration with the police. He's Iraqi. If he's in Iraq, he would have gotten married. He would have no issue getting a wife. But since he moved to Canada, he could not get a woman. He was in college. Nobody talked to them. And he's talking about Shads and Stacy's. I was listening to him for a whole hour. I didn't even know Shad and Stacy was until then. What I'm saying is that arranged marriages are good because the ugly and the good looking get wives. You understand?
Okay, but how is that not treating people like fucking property?
It's not property. They give you a choice. It's not like, you gotta marry. No, it's not like that.
No, hold on. I know people personally who their family have been like, we're going on holiday to Pakistan, and they're like, we're going to your cousin's wedding. Yeah. This happened to one of my friends. We're going to your cousin's wedding. She got there and found out it was her fucking wedding to her cousin. This is not like fucking clear cut. It's not optional.
No, Beckett,
she had to go to the embassy for help because her family took her passport away.
Beckett, that happens in Islamic law, the groom and the bride have to agree to marriage. See, people don't understand that. They're like, oh, no, he has to see her, and they could see her. You say, do you agree? Do you agree? The woman has to agree. People don't know that. You know, in Islamic law, if your husband snores, you have the right to divorce him. They don't know that. They're like, oh, you just beat you up. You can divorce a man if he snores. Oh, my quality of life is bad, your honor. I can't live like this.
Let me ask to bring it a little bit back onto only a little bit back on topic. I'm curious, Omar, what do you think about honor killings and honor culture that's plaguing a lot of the Islamic world right now?
I think that's bad. You know why? Because it's a cultural issue. See, a lot of people don't understand that. Even female circumcision. This is cultural. It has nothing to do with religion. I think that's wrong. I don't think you have the right to take any human's life. If somebody's sister, whatever, does something wrong, whatever, you don't have the right to kill or take her life. Who the fuck is you? You understand? Maybe she's gonna fall down in statue within. She's gonna cause a family embarrassment. Some people, you see, it's a tribal society. You have to understand. The Arabs are tribes. They're tribes all over the place. I'm against that. Personally, I'm against that. But am I for arranged marriages? Yes. Everybody gets to get married. Okay, one ugly girl from Britain who has an English accent refused to get married in Pakistan. Fuck her. Give her to a British guy with crooked teeth. Listen, sorry.
I get catching strays, but go on.
But in Arabia, arranged marriage is good. Everybody gets to get married. The guy who's handicapped gets to get married. The ugly gets to marry. The blind gets to marry. The one-eyed get to get married. Everybody's going to get a wife. The only thing that's a plug right now in Arabian society, Islamic society, is that the dowry. They make them pay. That's the only the issue, because they're making it unaffordable. That's all.
We need it to be more socialist. We need socialist arranged marriages. This whole capitalist dowry stuff.
You will solve a lot of problems. In Western society, we have a lot of problems. We got the incel movements. You got people who are lonely. The general, our general, what's his name? What do you call them? The doctor, the head doctor of the United States, that said there's a lot of loneliness in the United States, that people are dying because they are lonely. They don't have another. Okay, I got 6 kids. I'm got a beautiful wife, thank God, and everything. But there's another guy who's someplace in there just getting, doesn't have nothing, who masturbates to, what's it called? Big Pun? What's that site? Hunt Pun? What is it called?
She's talking about Pornhub.
Pornhub or Hub Porn. I don't know what it's called. You see, I did that.
Okay. I know what you're talking about now. I was like, I don't know what this is.
It is not that hard to get a partner. It's really not. Like, people just need to go outside.
Rick, don't you think it's good that...
Sorry, incel bros.
Don't you think it's good that... Rick, don't you think everybody should get a wife and a husband?
If you want to start a family, yes, I think that would... If you want to.
Okay, how do you do that in a Western society if you're not that good looking, or you're not a jock, or you don't have that enough money?
Well, first of all, I can't speak for the not good looking part. I've never had that problem. But I will say this. I will say this, right? That in Western society, in American culture, getting a partner is both simultaneously easier and harder than people think. Yes. I think that people put too much emphasis on certain qualities that they should not. I think we need to all lower our standards a little bit, and to go for people. Don't go for the 9s and the 10s. Go for the 6s. Okay,
yeah, probably the best.
Remember,
ones. Straight up, the 6s are probably the best ones.
For what you can get.
You know the Arabs have a saying. The Arabs have a saying: "Ugly for me and not beautiful for everybody." He said, if you get a 6, he said, I better have ugly for me only, not a 10 for everybody. Everybody's chasing out while you're away at work. So the whole idea is that the Western society has to deal with this issue. They have to. It's necessary, because you have these young men. You have these young men. You have these men who are not able to release their manhood, or sexually and physically and intellectually and socially. They are living. They are forgotten. I mean, I'm saying, if a kid, he had a degree in Canada, I think.
First of all, I apologize to those just coming in. This was about Saddam for the first portion, but now it's not. Now we're somewhere else.
We have to.
Now we are somewhere else, and so
the whole issue is that this is the Western countries.
Do you think?
are not
Do
having
you think
babies.
like the
They
rise?
are
Do you
declining.
think the rise in LGBT rights is a bad thing?
I think it's okay, but you can't force it in other countries.
Okay, you can't. That's an interesting statement. You can't force it on other countries. Do you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
people should have to modify their behavior based on the country they live in?
the United States. I think that if the law, see, this is me. I'm liberal like, but I'm not like Wiki. He's probably way left. Well, I believe that whatever the law says,
You hear that, Katie? I'm way left, but go
yeah,
on.
whatever the law says, I adhere to the law of the United States because we live under a social contract, and that social contract tells us that how to behave and how to treat others.
Do you think the treatment?
Well,
Do you
hold
think
on.
the treatment? Hold on. No, because you've answered my question.
Yeah.
Do you think the treatment of Muslims in France is understandable considering France's political situation as it comes to religion?
I think France has an issue. The Arabs in there are like the blacks and Spanish here in the inner cities. They live in these projects. They don't have access to distribution of wealth, and they're angry. You have these young people are unemployed. The same thing we have in the United States. They are the minority. They are the black. The Arabs there are the black people and Hispanic people of the United States. That's what it is. And you have the French, they have these laws. You can't wear the scarf. You can't wear this. You can't do that. They are interfering, calling Islam. Instead of embracing these people and bringing
Okay,
them out,
but again, like in France, they treat all religions this way.
I tell you, the French are very
It's not just Islam.
They are very, very rude people. French. I've been in France, and they are very rude the way they talk. They need a smack in the face before you talk to them, because I try to speak to English to one, they will not speak English to you. I told the lady, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German.
French,
you know, I told her, I said, if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German. And I don't know if she understood it or not, but she should get an idea what it is. The whole idea is, you have how many? There are like 5 million Arabs there, right? And in France, there's a lot of Arabs, Algerians, because France has been Algeria. You need to deal with this population. They're French citizens.
Okay, but the question was,
I'm not familiar with the social issues that like I am with the United States.
Okay, so let me like explain the social issues. So the social issues in France is post-revolutionary France. A religion was outlawed in revolutionary France. Yeah. The church was kicked out. Even now, they are highly suspicious of religion, and like you cannot wear like religious symbology in certain public settings, which is like the through line of like where we are with kind of Muslim. Do you think that's reasonable then? Because that's the culture of France.
If it's for everybody, it's okay. I don't have no issue. I think these people need jobs. That's all they need. They need access to the wealth. This is the problem we have in Western society. Like for the United States, 87% of family wealth is in the hand of white people, while the blacks have 4% of 3% and the other 4%. That's crazy. When you have so much wealth in one place, while the other is just watching, you're going to have social issues, social turbulence once in a while. We need that, even in the United States, we don't have distribution of wealth. The United States, 2% or 10% own all the wealth of the United States. Even these whites, even the whites, even the whites in the Southwest, they think they have privileges. They don't have nothing. They're fucking poor as me. Oh, I'm white. I got privileges. You're gonna take my privileges away. You don't have nothing. You don't have nothing, redneck. You are poor as me. We are in the same boat. You should vote like me. Me and you become one person and get these people, these elites, out of the way. We gotta vote the same. Stop voting against your interests. God damn, Wick, that's our show, Wick. That's our pilot show, me and you, huh? What you say?
Are you a Trump supporter?
No way. Trump's supporter.
Okay. No, you said elite.
Not because he's a Republican. He's an idiot. That's the whole idea. If he was another Republican, I would respect him. He doesn't have.
Are you a DeSantis fan?
No, DeSantis is a fucking meatball. Excuse me. I'm from New York. He's the kind of idiot we smack around in New York. DeSantis will melt. He doesn't have any personality. He's not strong within debate. You're gonna see him. But the whole idea is that you know what I like? You know what's his name? I think it's Chris Sununu from New Hampshire. What's his name? The governor of New Hampshire had made a good president, Republican president. I would have voted for him. I will vote for a good Republican once in a while.
But you wanted a strong man, and like you wanted Saddam. Why? Would you want a Saddam-like leader for the US?
No. You see, you're making a mistake. I'm telling you, for that neighborhood, he's good. I said it in the beginning. Yeah, but I'm a liberal piece of shit here, man. Oh, man. He'll execute me. I'm the first person. Me and Wick will be in line to get executed. You understand? Under Saddam Hussein, because we're so liberal. I don't know if he's.
What are you talking about? I would adjust and adapt to my circumstances to save my own skin.
Yeah, Wick's
What
a
I'm
fucking
saying is
shell.
that- what I'm
Listen,
saying,
listen. If
I'm a
we were in an
survivor.
authoritarian state, Wick would be
Yeah,
the first
we
one.
cannot
Like,
have that.
how can I get super chats off this authoritarian state?
Trump. You know why? You know why I don't like Trump? Because he doesn't have an ideology. That's scary because you don't know. He's a transactional individual. He's from New York. I understand his language. Everything to him is, how much can I make out of that? You know that general they killed, that Iranian general. That $2 billion that Jared Kushner got, that was for his head. Remember when they killed that general in Iraq? What's his name? Qasem Soleimani. He was our ally. He was helping us beat the ISIS. And there was this craziest thing that one of the advisors to Trump said every time we had a conversation with Iran, I said, why don't we kill this guy? He kept on saying, because they're like, oh, he's not doing nothing. He's helping us with ISIS. I mean, we were enemies, but indirectly we're helping each other. And he got paid for that guy lovely. That was an assassination. That general. You know what I'm talking about, guys, or no? Hello?
I know the assassination of the Iranian general. I'm
Yeah, that was a paid. Trump got paid for that, and I bet my whole life on that. Because we had no reason to kill that guy. He's only hated by Saudi Arabia and the Arabs there. Okay. He was an ally. He was helping us fight ISIS. He was doing us. He was doing our jobs.
I want to ask one more Saddam related question. I know.
Sure, why the fuck not?
Fuck Saddam.
We'll do one more Saddam Hussein question, then we'll go back to fucking red pill stuff. I never get to talk about red pill stuff.
Okay.
I mean, we should have a show.
This is for both of you.
Yeah.
Okay? Given what we know now about the state of Iraq today in 2023, was it wise or was it good for the U.S. to remove Saddam Hussein from power?
Can I go first?
Or no? You can go first, but Beckett has a chance. You do tend to talk over Beckett, so we're going to try to...
I'm so excited.
Are you sorry?
I just like
Go ahead first, and we'll let Beckett go.
All right, Wick. I apologize. I apologize to you, Beckett.
You're fine, buddy. You're fine.
Honestly, I get good vibes from you. I swear to God, I like you a lot. Really, I really do. What I'm gonna say that
it's been fun. I like a good heating.
Yeah, the mistake we made is we did take Saddam Hussein, but we should have left the power structure on the Ba'ath Party because the Ba'athists were in control. They kept the people in check. What happened is what we did wrong is we dismantled the whole army in one night, dismantled all the civil servants, everything, and we tried to build Iraq from scratch. What we did right now, we created all these cantons, like of Shias, Sunnis. Everybody is in his own foxhole. And we get power back to the mullahs who are supported by Iran. Right now, Wick, Iraq is a state vessel for Iran. Iran has overran Iraq. Socially, economically, militarily. They have these militias, Iranian militias, 40,000, 50,000. Iraq is not a country right now. Iraq is a fragment of pieces. The government is stuck inside the green zone. They can't leave the green zone. The people in power are the mullahs, the Shia, I'm Sunni. The Shia are like the Catholics, like they have a leader like the Pope and things like that, whatever you say goes, but they're more extreme in their view of religion. They follow a autocracy, I don't know how to call it in English. But the whole idea that Iraq is bad right now. Saddam will not have been in power now. He'll be probably 80. He'll be dead from old age. But they should have left the power structure. Iraq has always been a Sunni country since its founding. And it's always been the doorway to the Arab Gulf. What I mean by the doorway, it has been always the protector of all from Iran, Iran's influence from getting into the Gulf. That's all it is. We made a big mistake. We killed a lot of people. We created a lot of orphans and millions of orphans. Millions of widows for no reason at all. And the only war criminal right now, he's in Crawford, Texas. He's painting in a basement. And if there was any justice in the world, he should be in Europe, in The Hague, put on trial and put in jail in Europe for war crime. That man is called W. Bush.
W. Bush, war criminal, according to Omar.
He's a war
criminal.
Okay. Yep.
Beckett, I want you to have some uninterrupted airtime here to to
Okay, so
answer the question, maybe respond to what Omar said.
sure. In some ways, I think we'd probably actually end up agreeing. I think I've talked a fair amount about state building issues. The West is not very good at it. Fundamentally, we misunderstand cultures, which is the problem that a lot of countries run into. It's one of the reasons that China's Belts and Roads project, despite having huge amounts of money and economy put into it, is failing really fucking badly. They just don't understand Africa. Fundamentally, state buildings are actually surprisingly simple. We can see this from like the outcomes. But very simply, it's the DMV theory. Basically, what you need for a country to function is local government. You need people to be able to get permits, and you need people to be able to do things. One of the things that we saw in the aftershot of Iraq for the first like 5 to 10 years was basically people wanting to build things. It takes 9 months to get a permit, and these kind of fundamental failures of local government building are one of the reasons that like a country just doesn't get started again. What we tend to do is we go in and we just replace the regime and we assume everything else works. But almost right, we dismantled basically all the systems that let anyone do anything. And those systems weren't fucking great to begin with at the point when we came in 2003. So there really was no hope. Iraq's not unique in this case at all. A lot of it's to do with like how international theory worked at the time and what we believed would work. But it's also the reason that like we ended up staying in so long. And you see similar things with Afghanistan, right? Like Afghanistan, like in key cities, you can see a very liberal democracy growing, which was then torn apart basically over a weekend as the Taliban came into power. Yeah. But also when you're changing a culture, it doesn't take 10 years, it doesn't take 20. You're looking at 2 generations. Yeah. So at least. So if you really want to go in and dominate, you have to spend time doing it. Now, the question, though, is like, was it right to get rid of Saddam Hussein? I don't think we had much of a choice once we were actually in, like, generally speaking, his people were not fucking happy. Let's be clear about this. I mean, I know, Omar, if you want to... Yeah, like, listen, like, people have pulled down statues and everything else. He'd already been depowered. When you've seen that happen to a dictator, you can't leave them in power anyway. It would be like if we went into Syria, beat Assad to pieces, supported all the rebel forces, and then we're like, okay, well, here's your fucking country back. Yeah, but ultimately, once we made the decision, there wasn't a choice.
You know why we kept him, right?
What, for Assad?
We kept him because he had all these people that fight him, all these religious groups. If he was to be toppled, you had all these. You'll have a mayhem at the end. You created like.
Well, it's not just mayhem. It's like we couldn't really go in.
You created 10 ISIS. Listen, let's see. Let's be honest. Afghanistan pre-1979 was a liberal. Women were walking in shorts. Everybody's happy until we came in. We brought the Mujahideen, and we said, "Come on, fight! You're gonna go to heaven." The United States did that. Even the Crown Prince said it when he came to us. He said we became religious because America told us to. They got these Mujahideen. They called the Arabs to come and fight the Great War.
Okay, I just want to be really clear on one thing. Like, it wasn't just America; it was Pakistan and it was Saudi Arabia that pushed a lot of the fucking shit with the Mujahideen.
These states were used as puppet states, but the CIA was the head honcho. I lived in the United States. You know they had a recruiting office here in Brooklyn, New York, to take us to Afghanistan. If we go to the mosque, they say, "Hey, come here, young man. Mujahideen want to go to heaven." In the United States, they were doing it. Come on, man. The CIA.
I don't know if you can say this is entirely CIA, because there is a long history in Islam of pilgrimage militia fighting, like going to a country that's the war to defend an Islamic country.
Afghanistan was.
This is how Osama bin Laden first cut his teeth as a terrorist in the regime. He went to go and support.
Becca, God bless you. Afghanistan was a communist country pre-1979.
Yeah.
We created this mirage. Go look at the magazine, High Time, all this magazine. We made heroes out of the Mujahideen. We gave them training. Do you think Saudi Arabia is able to think on itself? Saudi Arabia can't even get out of a fucking brown bag if they get stuck in it and that. So we used
but
we destroyed quickly, this is what we did. Hold on. We gave them weapons. We recruited. We helped recruit. We told everybody to the mosque. You should have seen. I was, a lot of people in Arabia, the mosque every Friday. Go die. They said the martyr's blood smells like perfume. They were saying this sit where with this the angels. We saw angels come and pick up the martyrs off the field. There were some of these kids. They went there. They radicalized them. After the Soviet Union collapsed, they left them to their own devices. Now they know how to make bombs. They know how to war. They know how to fight. They have no education. They have no place to go. Of course, they're going to do what they did. We did that. Everywhere we go, we leave. We went to Iraq. What we did? We left ISIS. I think we produce these things. Us, we do it. Do you think ISIS would have been there if Saddam was there? No. Come on, Beckett.
Oh, what? Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So, firstly, when we talk about
if Iraq was the same state, even without Saddam Hussein, if it still had the structure, the power structure of the Ba'athist Party, I don't think ISIS would exist in Iraq.
Okay. So on that scale, probably not, because again, like it's taking advantage of it's taking advantage of a post-war country. Yeah. But the idea that there would be no terrorist growth in Iraq is highly, highly skeptical.
It was nothing
like
there.
Again.
Before that,
there was nothing. There was nothing there when we're talking like pre 80s and pre 90s,
pre 20s,
but when we've got like what was growing in the Middle East, like Iraq wasn't considered trustworthy enough to not have those cells at least be able to operate in its borders. Because again, those cells were targeting Israel, and like again, Saddam was a big supporter of Palestine, so he had an incentive. He had an incentive to allow those groups to grow.
You have to understand, they saw Saddam as an infidel because his ideology is a socialist communist. The Ba'athist doesn't believe in God. The Ba'athist structure, they saw each other as enemies. They saw Saddam as an infidel, a person who doesn't believe in Allah, and he saw them as terrorists, for they are religious freaks. He used to tame down religious aspirations inside Iraq. He used to destroy it right away if there's any movements. Because he was seen as an infidel, a person who doesn't believe in God. Because the Ba'athist Party is called resurrection. That means that there is no God. They had resurrection in Arab. It dealt with Arab Arab panism, whatever the word is, and socialism and a bit of communism. Even they say that they had a saying, al-haya madda, that life is a product. You know, like what you eat, like it's nature. You understand? So the problem is they saw him as an enemy. Iraq was good for that region. You had the good there. The only issue is that it was done for Israel's national security. Iraq was destroyed. Iraq was destroyed at the BS.
I wanted to check this because I'm not sure this is like a fair reading. This is a reading of Saddam like in the 80s, but like post the Gulf War, Saddam came to emphasize more seriously with his religious identity. He used it prominently in public discourse. He used religion. He utilized religious symbolism, and he seemed to increase his oppression against religious minority groups. So the idea that Saddam Hussein couldn't be seen as sympathetic to more extreme Islamic forces.
When you saw his army collapse in 1990. And they became the country weak. That's what they do. They go to play with people's feelings. God, and they start using God.
But that's the question, isn't it? Could we trust Saddam Hussein not to lean into that? And the answer is no, probably not.
No, but you can't trust Iran. Iran has like 10 militia all over the place. Why does Iran get to live and the other guy gets to die?
Well, because we're not prepared to go into Iran in that situation.
No, we're pussies when it comes to Iran. That's what it is. Anyway, I want to ask you something. Sure. Why can't these countries have weapons? Why can't they? I mean, is it only for white people or what?
Yeah, why can't we have mass weapons? Why can't Middle East? Just real quick, why can't the Middle East
have a nuclear weapon? Why? I mean, I don't see it. It's a culture of 1,000 years.
Beckett, please answer this.
Hold on. They are proud people. Yeah. Hold on. Let me give you the history of Iran. They have never invaded any country before the Shah. I'm not talking about the modern history. They have not even committed one terrorist action. The last time they did was in 1982 when they helped kill 242 American Marines. After that, they gave the terrorist file. They gave it to the Sunnis. It's smart. They knew terrorism was going to destroy them. Iran has not committed any terrorism against the United States. The only thing it does, it creates militia and it creates instability in America's allies in the Middle East. They're very smart. They said, we're not going to go after the Americans. We're going to go after the puppets. We got
to let them answer the question. Why, in your opinion, let me just make it shorter, right? I mean, why would it be bad if the Middle East, Iran specifically, got weapons of mass destruction?
Why you gotta call it that? Why you call it that? Nuclear weapon?
Because that's what they are, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, mass destruction has this weapons of mass destruction.
No, wait. Yes. The word mass destruction has this weird thing with vibe from
Wait, hold on. Wait, weapons of mass destruction has a weird like connotation, but
because of
we've got to be
Saddam.
super broad about terrorism. Seriously,
No,
come
no,
on.
no, in the mind of the vehicle, because that's what they were taught in
Nuclear
2000.
That's what
weapons.
terrorism does. Okay,
Okay,
no,
why
fuck
can't-
it.
okay,
No,
Let me
just
ask
real
the
quick.
question.
Hey, I want to
Ask the
explain.
question.
Hey,
No,
I want to
I wanna-
explain myself. I want to explain
So
myself.
that
So
is why.
nuclear
Okay,
weapon
the question is
also has a connotation. Okay.
okay, you're right. I'll give you that. Why can't Iran have? Why?
What?
Okay,
Okay.
answer the question.
Sure,
I have an
sure.
answer.
The
But
reason
go ahead.
Iran
I'm
can't
curious.
be allowed to develop weapons of mass destruction is a threefold issue. Firstly, we can't trust the regime, and we generally don't trust theocratic or dictatorial regimes where the sole thing is, will the leader survive? Because historically, we go, well, that person is much more likely to use nuclear weapons. They do not fall under the deterrent umbrella, which is generally how we treat those umbrellas, whether we're talking like Britain, France, America, South Africa, multiple other states. We understand those to be deterrents, and we also, the reason we call it an umbrella is because it's not just a deterrent for that nation not to be attacked, it's a deterrent for all the other nations surrounding them to be protected. The Middle East is not stable enough for an umbrella to be established. That's one of the reasons we push back on it.
You have 7 million Jews who have 200 nuclear weapon head inside they are holding hostage 1 billion Muslims, scaring them with those weapons. Why did you give Israel?
Yes, but we also
okay
trust
Israel.
Israel.
It's okay. Israel,
We trust Israel not to.
Okay.
We trust Israel. Hey, well, listen. We can debate whether we should trust Israel to do that. But generally speaking,
how about North Korea? North Korea.
North Korea's development is difficult, and the problem is that when we're looking at state, it is difficult because if we invade North Korea, we're very likely to end up in war with China. In the same way that if we'd invaded Syria, we're very likely to end up in war with Russia. And the lessons of the world wars have taught
nuclear weapons. We're talking about why are they allowed to have nuclear weapons?
It doesn't matter because the thing is, listen.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
If in a worst case scenario, we had to go into Iran to invade them and take them over. Let's say the very worst case. The international fallout for that, with other states becoming involved, actually has a low priority chance of turning into a massive geopolitical conflict. But if we go into North Korea, the chances of a massive geopolitical conflict are really fucking high. And with Syria, and that's the calculation you have to do when talking about who to invade. And we don't need to do that with Iran because we can stop them developing nuclear weapons.
I can tell you, and I'm confident 100%. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, there will be peace in Israel. Israel will come to the table and negotiate like a good boy, because they know that it's going to get a good hit. But right now, it has 200 nuclear warheads. Nobody has the. Hold on. Nobody has the weapons they have. They've been negotiating with the Palestinians since 1989 to free the territory. Since 1989, they have 1 million settlers. How do you negotiate while you're selling people's land? Because
Can we be clear about something? Yeah. If we were talking about this in a reverse situation, if it was an Islamic state encroaching into a Jewish state's territory, we wouldn't be able to have the fucking conversation because there'd be no Jews left. How many countries? How many? No. There are countries in the Middle East where there are one Jewish resident to 100. We're not talking about the Middle East like it's the West. If it was reversed,
listen.
No, you gotta let Beckett finish his point, and then you can respond, Omar. Go ahead, Beckett.
He just made a boo-boo.
No. We all know that if this situation was reversed and it was just a Jewish state being encroached upon, they would be wiped off the map because the assumption would be that the West would do nothing about it.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, you guys killed 6 million Jews in your continent. That's first thing. Jews enjoyed the best relationship, with Muslims throughout history until 1948. Jews enjoyed, they were merchants, they were advisors. Even the Spanish Inquisition, when you were cutting people's balls in Spain, Jews ran to the Arab land. We lived as neighbors. In my village, we had Jews. We never saw them as, we were neighbors. The only time we got nationalism is when the British came and told us, nationalism. We don't know what nationalism is because the Turks used to rule us. We don't know the Turks were different than us. We didn't care. Then the Jews enjoyed great relationship. We never have issue with the Jews as Jews because we never had anything. Give me crimes that we have committed against Jews in our country. The only time they left is, I'm going to give you, in Egypt, they don't want to leave. You know what the Mossad used to do? They used to put bombs in movie theaters where Jews used to go to scare them to migrate to Israel. They used to commit terrorist acts against their own people to get them to leave Arab lands. In Yemen, we still have Jews in my country. They silversmith, they make stuff like that. You have to understand, we don't have an issue with the Jews. We have an issue with Zionism and its idea. We have an issue with the Zionist entity, the Zionist thinking, the Zionist playbook, the Zionist terrorism, the Zionist occupation. Jews, as a Jew, we have no issue with them. They are our cousins. We share the same. We are Semite. I'm an Arab. I'm a Semite. So if you
Jewish individuals moved on. They had their assets confiscated and seized by the state and countries such as Iraq, Egypt, and Syria.
What happened?
Their assets were seized and they were moved out.
No, they would never. Nobody was forced out. A lot of people.
Their assets were seized. No, they can stay, but they're all their assets.
Hold on. I'm going to tell you experience from my country of Yemen. In 1948, we had a lot of Jews in Yemen. A lot of villages. They're empty right now. If you go to see them, they're all empty. Then they said they got to go that Israel, that God, Moses, they all left voluntary. A matter of fact, the economies were hurt when they left because they were part of the economic vibrance of the countries. Nobody confiscated anything, and nobody wanted to leave because if they left, they're going to create a state. It was in our interest to keep them in our country, so without people on the land, they can't have a country. You understand the whole idea? So it doesn't make sense for us to kick them out. Nobody kicks anybody out. People don't understand this. Israel enjoyed the greatest moment in history was in Arabian country and Islamic countries. They were not allowed to go, for 4 centuries, they were not allowed to go into Britain. Look at the history. You had programs, what do you call it, programs? We used to beat them up once in a while. You used to say
answer for your crimes, Beckett. Huh? Come on, listen, British again.
There's a history that they were not allowed to go into.
I'm not listen. I'm not denying the Jewish oppression in Europe.
He's a South African. Leave him alone. He's not even European. He's even worse. He was an apartheid guy. Listen, let me finish. I'm just joking with you, Beckett. What I'm saying is that people misunderstand. Oh, the Arabs hate Jews. No, we don't. We don't have no issue with the Jews. Are you nuts? There's Jews in Yemen right now, in my country. They live in the mountains with us. Nobody's protecting them against it. There is no issue. Our issue is the idea of Zionism. Zionism came from Europe. You guys killed 6 million Jews. You felt guilty. Instead of giving them some land, a piece of land in Germany, you should have given Germany. You should have given them one province as a payback for what you did to them. Instead of you had the Balfour Declaration. You know how, Wick, the whole idea with the Balfour Declaration, it is Zionist Christians, these evangelists, they have this idea that if a lot of Jews filled up Israel, it will bring the rapture of Jesus. Even now, American Christians, Zionist evangelists, they give a lot of money. They say, go there. The whole idea is to bring Jesus back, then tell the Jews, are you going to become Christian? No, then they get to kill them. It's like a marriage of convenience they have going on. It's been going on since the 1890. Imagine American Christians, they support Zionists, but are not able to support Christian Arabs in Palestine, who are Christians. They've been Christians since the time of Jesus, who live in dire poverty, are beat up every day by the Zionist entity that called Israel, and they don't help them. So the whole idea is, if somebody comes and lies, we don't have no issue with Jews. I never had anything.
I am curious for Beckett to answer this question. This will probably be the last question.
It's Palestine.
Sure.
Yeah, this will be probably the last question before we go to closings.
We're not going no place. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Oh, well, I'm glad you are. I'm glad. And gang, if you are enjoying this conversation, you're watching this show, right? You gotta let me know. You gotta support the channel through super chats, through subs if you're watching on Twitch or Kick, through bits. Those things let me know that this is the kind of content that you want to keep seeing. So if you like this kind of thing,
just quickly, because I'm just we are talking about Yemen here, because according to one report, there are 6 Jews in Yemen, 1 woman, her brother, 3 others, and one other. who has been imprisoned for helping smuggle a Torah scroll out of Yemen. And this is December 2021. So I feel like I'm being fucking gaslit. Maybe we need to have another debate. Like, I just don't really get why this take is so fucking out of left field.
Hold on.
Like, come on.
Hold on. See, you're having this British hiccups. That's what it is. Get a drink of wine or anything so you can relax. I'm going to explain to you what's going on. Yemen has been under civil war since 2015.
Okay, no, they're under civil war. That's fine.
Hold on. A group of Houthis who are supported by Iran, who are the minority, have taken over the country. There's a lot of people in jail. There's a lot of people dead because of this group that took over the country because Iran supported them. So you cannot judge that. But I could tell you that my father, may rest his soul, explained to me. He said, son, we used to live with the Jews, no problem.
Okay, like, what about Egypt? What about Egypt? The census numbers are like 10 to 20.
Egypt had, when?
Like, this is like the census numbers for like...
You have to understand, Egypt had the most elite Jews in the Arab countries. They're very educated. In the 1950s, I'm talking about, the 40s. Yeah, they were movie makers.
They're not dead now, though, are they?
I told you the Mossad used to blow up bombs in Jewish theaters to scare them to go to Israel. This is the known fact. You know what one Zionist said, leader of the Zionist movement in the 1940s? He said, one cow, a Jewish cow in Jerusalem, is worth to me more than 10 Jews.
Okay, look, I'm going to say, look.
Hold on. It's worth more to me than 10 Jews in Poland.
Okay, can we? I'm going to say, because I know Wick wants to wrap up. I know he wants to do
I donate first.
Yeah, donate more money. Yes, please.
Yeah, can I donate even if I'm part of the show?
Yes, you both may donate to me. And in fact,
what the fuck
I'll declare the winner based on who
coming in
more.
with the, you can buy a fucking win.
Yes, you absolutely can.
Yeah, no. Wait, hold on. I forgot my pass.
No, take your time. Take your time. While you're doing that, I want to. Beckett had a thing, but I have a question for you, Beckett, too. But finish your point.
I don't have a point. My point is stop trying to show me for money. Like, okay. Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay, so my question to you.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't know. Something's wrong with my password.
Yeah, well, you can. That's fine. We'll get
Next time I'll double it.
Next time you'll double it. I'll take it.
Okay. Listen. First of all, wait. Beckett.
Hold on. Can I have the question?
I don't want you to smoke no more. Beckett, I don't want you to smoke no more.
Well, you can't tell me what to do because I'm a free living Brit.
I'm going to tell you why.
Listen.
My brother was diagnosed with COPD. And he quit smoking 20 years ago. Imagine. And he has emphysema. You know what the lifespan is? Almost like 5 years after you're diagnosed. So if he quit 20 years ago and smoking caught him up with him, I want you as a friend, I never met you before. I'm going to give you good advice. Throw that cigarette away. Vape if you have to. And every puff you take, trust me, when you see those people that can't breathe, they're walking oxygen tanks, you will know what it is like to breathe. You understand? They told him he has 2 to 7 years to live. I don't know, but the whole idea is, I know this is off topic. It's a little dark. I saw you smoking, and I said, I'm going to talk later at the end of the show. Don't smoke, man. Okay?
Sure. Well, look, I appreciate your concerns for my health, and I'm sorry for your brother.
Save your life. That's what I'm saying. Okay, go ahead. What was the question, Wick?
I'll struggle to remember it. We have gone
all
over the map here. Beckett, but let me finish. This is my process. I'm talking through it. Please.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I get interrupted in my process, I'm not going to be able to finish the question. Okay, so Beckett, we have talked a little bit about Israel and Palestine.
Sure.
What is your solution? Do you think we have a 2-state solution here to this? What would you say is the right move going forward when it comes to Israel-Palestinian relations?
I think that's... Well, thanks for giving me that at the end of the show. I appreciate you. So it's a really difficult one. Ultimately, the situation is down to how Israel views itself in the region. It's become more complicated over time, not less. I don't think a 2-state solution is likely, but then, we said the same thing about Northern Ireland and the Republic. So it is, never say never, I guess. If you want if there was a quick fix, it would be to basically engage with one of the other states in some way to work out a move from for the Palestinians out of what is their land, to stop basically Israel displacing them by force. That is probably like the lowest casualty choice, but it's, again, very unlikely. It's difficult because I can see the position of, well, we should have a two-state system, but honestly, both cultures fucking hate each other. That's not just not going to occur. And at the moment, like, the West is never going to turn around, nor is Israel with its current military situation, and just sort of cede the land and be like, well, we'll just close Israel down. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say engagement and displacement, which is not a comfortable answer. It is probably the closest to an honest truth, though.
Okay.
Can I answer or?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, that Israel doesn't know what it wants to do. Israel has a dilemma. Israel wants to remain a Jewish state. At the same time, it has a problem. The problem is they have other human beings living with them. The population of the Palestinians is about 7 million, and they have a higher birth rate than the Jews. So if they bring to the one state solution, they will become a minority in 20 to 30, 40 years. Israel now occupies as Israel, a sovereign state. People got a different name. There's Israel and there's the occupied territory. So people need to understand. The sovereign state of Israel is 78% of the land, and it's occupying 22%. And there's about 5 million in that occupation. It already cut off Gaza by itself, because this is what the plan is. They want Gaza off. You have 2 million people in Gaza. They call it the biggest open prison in the world, because everything that goes in has to go through Israel's hand. Israel has built a lot of settlements, and it's so racist, these settlements. They are walled to themselves. They have their own roads, and they're using 80% of the resources in that region. While the majority of Palestinians are only left with 20%. They cannot farm, they cannot do anything, and they take their land every year. They settle. What's the end game? Are they going to have a final solution for the Palestinians like the Germans had? Or are they going to do ethnic cleansing and move them over to other Arab countries? Something is going on here. You don't want a two-state solution, and you don't want a one-state solution. So I asked the Zionist states, what do you want? Tell us what's the solution here. You have 200 nuclear weapons. Most of the Arab states are your friends now. You can't claim that you live in a sea of sharks. Everybody's your friend. You have more weapons to destroy the whole Middle East. So what's the end game here? You celebrate, my Jewish friend, you celebrate Passover as the time that you left Egypt as a slave, and you said, let our people go. I want you to let the Palestinian go. Either you embrace them as one nation with you, and you share the same land, or give them their freedom. It's very simple. You cannot say you're afraid of them, they're going to destroy Israel. Nobody could destroy Israel. Israel is a nuclear state. It's a nuclear state. It has 200 nuclear weapons. Nobody. I think if Iran had a nuclear weapon, Israel would negotiate in good faith. Right now, there's no reason to negotiate. You get $4 billion every year from the United States. So every bullet you shoot is paid for by American taxpayer. Every tank. Maybe if you cut off that aid and you start paying for your wars, you'll probably think twice, because it will hurt you financially. At the end of the day, it's not a conflict. It's not a complex situation. There's an occupied and there's an occupier. Very simple. The occupier need to leave, and the occupied need to get their freedom. Don't be fooled by these media in the United States. That's what I gotta say.
Okay.
Okay.
Gang. This has been. Thank you for coming. I try new things. We tried different formats here. It's been a minute since I've hosted a one-on-one debate of this style. I know we did one Friday, but that was a little bit different. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please remember to hit that like button if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Throw some super chats my way. You can do it even when it's not live, I promise. You can also, if you want to support the channel, go on my Twitch and follow me there, or go on Kick and throwing me there. I don't have my Patreon live yet, but it is in the works. Gang, where can we find you, Omar? Where's the link to your channel?
I don't have the link right now, but it's the third Omar, the third rail with Omar. I don't stream a lot too much because I've been sick, but I'm a liberal streamer who's conservative on social issues, but I'm still a liberal piece of shit. So if you like liberals, come to my channel. All right.
Okay, check them out, gang. Check them out. Beckett, where can people find you?
Hey, back at the Crabs. You can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Yeah. I don't know. Are we doing closing statements? I don't think we need to. I think we've got it fucking everywhere.
we just ruled the
That
whole
Israel
world.
question counts as that. So
nobody
Okay.
did a chat question. Nobody did.
There was one super chat. But yeah, today, I don't know where everyone is. So
It's
who
a
knows?
Sunday. It's a
I think
Sunday.
a lot of people
Well,
are
it's a
watching
Monday,
the kidology
but-
stuff, right?
Yeah, no, Sunday.
Oh, the kidology stuff. Yeah. So that might have taken all my viewers, but that's okay. It's all good. For now though, I'll say adieu to you. So bye-bye, gang. And we're not ending the stream. I do want to talk to you one-on-one, gang, like
Okay.
chat, right? But I will talk to both of you again. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Right. Freedom.
Yeah.
Kicked out. Thrown. Yeah, that was fun.